Our Mesoamerican heritage and ancestry is very powerful. It is very powerful. Our Mesoamerican heritage is very powerful. Right? Very, very advanced. Right? Very powerful, very advanced, and very extensive. Very extensive. It's very extensive, very powerful, and very advanced. And because of that, people want to take that heritage. People want to try and step into our heritage, step into what is ours, the claim is their own. This is what people want to do. People want to be like us. They want to be unto us. They want to act like us. Because you can tell that the so-called African culture, right? The so-called African culture is nowhere on the level of Mesoamerican culture. So-called African culture is nowhere along the lines of Mesoamerican culture. It's not. Hands down, Mesoamerican culture is very extensive, very, very extensive. So much so we didn't even know how extensive it was until we started finding our Mesoamerican heritage and culture, right? See, they wanted to tell us that we come from a race of people who did nothing but sit in primitive mud huts and do a bunch of tribal dances and primitive activity all day, right? All they basically do is going out hunting and fishing and running around sleeping in huts and tents. See, this is what they wanted to teach about our people, you see. This is the lie they wanted to teach about our people and where we come from, and that we are a heritage of that. They made sure that they told that lie, knowing that they, in fact, know the truth about our people, about our heritage, our history. You know how you know? It's because they went so hard to erase it. They went so hard to break us away from our Mesoamerican heritage and culture. Remember I told you all before, the so-called white men, they would go around when our people was referring to themselves as Native American. I don't think our people called themselves Indians, but they might have. They might have used the term Native American, meaning people who are natives to this country. Because at one time, Indian and black was synonymous with each other, or Native American and black was synonymous with each other. But before, and we were the people that were referred to as copper-colored races. We were the people who were referred to as the copper-colored races. We were referred to as the copper-colored races because our skin has a copper-bronze look to it. Our skin is not black. But see, they programmed our people so much. They programmed them so much, the so-called white man and the slave system they set up here and put our people in the slavery system and put us in the secondary class system on purpose so that they would erase any ties we had with our true heritage. With our true heritage. They did such a good job that today when you ask so-called black people, are we black? They'll say, yeah, brother, definitely. And then you ask them, well, is our skin black? And they're like, either they'll say something stupid like yes, or they'll be like, well, no, it's just figuratively, like the guy said, one of the guys in the Nation of Islam said to one of my brothers out there in Chicago. He said, oh, well, see, brother, we're not actually black. That's figuratively. Well, what are you talking about? We ask you to give a description. If I ask you to give a description of somebody, I'm not looking for a figurative description. I'm looking for an actual description. Tell me what the complexion of this person is, what hair type, what genotype, basically what you observe, not what somebody told you, see, because what he wanted to do is go with what somebody told him, meaning the so-called white man who told our people that they were black. Now, these Caucasians, they used to go around to our Native American families and tell them, don't put Native American on there, you Negro, y'all Negroes now. And that wasn't just a state thing. That wasn't just a state thing. That was a state-to-state thing. That was a governmental thing because they were pushing to create the black race. The so-called white man was pushing heavily toward the end of slavery and into the 19th century to create what is now called the black race and create this false narrative that we came over here on cargo slave ships from Africa, which is a goddamn lie. They took certain people from Africa in the beginning. Like I told you, all that stuff cut off. A very small percentage of people from Africa came here. Very small. And you know how tribal African people look. You know how they look. You see, you know how Africans look. So why are they trying to make you believe that we're the same people? Why is the Caucasians trying to make, the Caucasians who control history and television and media and all this other stuff, magazines trying to get us to believe that we are descendants of African tribal people, when in fact we are not. Why are they trying to get us to buy into that lie and all the so-called historical academia? Why are they trying to teach that our people are Africans who were brought into America? I told you why. Because the whole term African American denotes a history of slavery, that you came from Africa on slave ships by the white man, forced into bondage here in America. Therefore, you are African American. So what they're teaching you, the lie that they're teaching our people is that you only here in America because of slavery. That's what the hell they teaching that lie to our people, that we only got here because of slavery. So much so a lot of these so-called black historians now, who've been paid off by the so-called white man or who drunk the Kool-Aid and believe his BS, they teach this nonsense too, that we was on slave ships and how we got into America was through slavery. That's a goddamn lie. That is a huge, bold-faced lie. I told you that our people been here in America before everybody. We are the ancient Mesoamericans. And like I said, we got a video coming to prove that. We got a video to prove that. Like I said, we ain't even got to blink our eyes, and next thing you know, we see all of that Mesoamerican rich heritage coming to us, all our faces in ancient Maya, ancient Olmecs, Aztec, Inca, all those people, real civilizations, not no jungle hut, tribal, primitive people that's throwing goddamn spears and dancing around all day and not building real governments, real civilizations, real society, not building real agricultural centers and things like that. You see, they don't want our people to think that we are advanced like that we come from an advanced people. They don't want you to think that way. You see, because it don't go along, I told you, it does not go along with their stereotypical idea of what a black person is supposed to be. A black person is supposed to be behind a white person and every other race of people here in America. That's what a black person is supposed to do. Because you don't, just by virtue of the fact they're calling you black people, already says you don't know what your heritage is. You don't know what your true culture is. You don't know what your true language is or languages is. You don't know any of that. So what do you have to do? You have to accept what they tell you about your history, and that's what so-called black people have done, even down to calling yourself black people, because they was going up to our people, the ones who were referring to ourselves Native American here on census and things like that. They would go up and they would have sheriffs and police arrest people who call themselves that. So they was threatening our people if we didn't call ourselves black people and African Americans or marked Negro. They was threatening our people or killing them. They don't have things with sheriffs went up, you know, what race is you? What's your race? Oh, I'm Native American. Boom, blow your brains out. No, you're supposed to be Negro. You see, that's what they were doing. And like I said, they doubled down on it after trying to tell our people. They doubled down on it in the 60s with the creation of the fake Pan-African movement, of the fake red, black, and green back to Africa Pan-African movement. All right? With the creation of fake-ass holidays like Kwanzaa and all the Kenta cloth nonsense, all that BS. And guys like Kwanzaa, Kajufu, or whatever that guy's name is, which a lot of these Negroes are nothing but agents, man. A lot of these Black Panther, Pan-African people are nothing but a bunch of agents, man. They nothing but a bunch of agents. You see, that's all they are. They're a bunch of agents who are doing nothing but causing confusion amongst our people, because that's what paid agents do. They get paid to go out here and cause confusion and chaos amongst our people. See, because they don't want our people to believe that we have a rightful claim to this land. They want our people to keep on thinking that we are foreign to this land, that this is not our land, that we just happen to come here, and that we just happen to be here through slavery and the white man forced us here, thus promoting in the minds of our people that we were dominated, number one, by a weaker and recessive race of people, that our strong, powerful selves were able to be dominated by a weak and recessive people known as white, right? This is what they want to promote to our people. And a lot of our people are so weak-minded now from being black, from being blackened up. They're so weak-minded now they believe this foolishness. In fact, they will fight you to, keep this whole black thing going. They'll fight you to keep it going. They'll fight with you they'll fight with you about being black, that you see, brother, like the guy in the Nation of Islam, see, brother, we symbolically black. No, we're not symbolically anything. We can be, if that's the case, then we can be symbolically orange then. We can be symbolically red. We can be symbolically green. You see, there's no symbolism in who we are. See, that's what these Negroes, they are trying, because they don't, everybody got their mind made up on things, and their mind is fixed already, so you can't talk to them. That's why I said everybody obviously is not of the Mesoamerican race. Everybody's not of the Mesoamerican culture and heritage. Everybody's not. You got certain people who just, like I said, the white man created a race of Negroes. The white man has created a race of niggas, a race of Negroes, a race of black people. He has created them. The black people are like the Frankenstein monster that the white man created by taking a bunch of people who were Mesoamerican, who were descendants of Mesoamerica, and just created a coon class out of them. He took a group of our Mesoamerican former brothers and sisters, the ones who want to be black now, the ones who want to be African American now, the ones who want to be all these things now, Negroes now, niggas now. He basically took them and converted them into, like I said, into black people. You see, that's why they'll argue with you when you present this heritage to them. When you present this proof to them, they'll argue with you. They'll fight with you. You see, they'll do all this with you because, like I said, it is meant to cause chaos and confusion in the minds of our people. That's why they do it. They don't do it for any other reason, to keep our people off balance of who they are, what they are. That's what that's all about. It's about nothing else but creating confusion and lying to our people, and again, promoting this dominating mindset of our people. Because I told you before, this is how you know our people are the real ancient and native people to this land. So-called people were falsely being called African American and blacks and Negroes. How you know we are the true Mesoamericans? Because everybody goes hard on our people. Even the so-called white man, he goes the hardest on our people. Why does he go the hardest on our people? Because we were here before him. He knows that we are the true natives of this land. He knows that. He knows that whole we African thing is a little BS. They know that. They know that. You see, they know the whole African hustle is just that, a hustle. They got their own records. They got their records. They already know what the lies that they've been told. They know who our people are. They know that they've taken hold of the most strongest, powerful people on the planet, the ancient Mesoamerican people, the Aztec, the Inca, the Mayan. And like I said, they already know which tribes or groups we come from. They know which ones here, right in Mesoamerica, right in America. You see, they know that our people are descendants of those people, but they can't tell you that because I told you before, like I said, they have to create this false narrative that we are a bunch of stupid, ignorant slave people who basically need the white man to survive. Like I said, that's part of his script, that the script that he's created, that's part of the script that he created when he created the so-called black race, that you're a bunch of stupid coons and sambos and Aunt Jemimas and bedwenches, black Negroes, simple-minded people who need the white man to survive, that he brought you into civilization. These are the lies they want to tell. And you got black people who are willing to reinforce those lies. I told you, black people are not our people. They're not part of the Mesoamerican culture or heritage. Black people are not. They are a race and class unto themselves now. They are a race and class of Negroes, a race and class of African Americans, a race and class of black people. They are not our people, and we need to draw a definitive line and separate from them. That was a big thing with me in Chicago when I talked about the separation of our people, the Mesoamerican people, from black people. We need to make that. All you Negroes who want to believe you black, then go be black. Go get down. Do your thing. But the ones who this message of about our Mesoamerican heritage, who this resonates with, that's who this is for. And like I said before, our Mesoamerican brothers and sisters are not just in America, man. They all over the place. They in America. They in North America, South America, Central America, Canada, the UK, Africa, Europe. Mesoamericans are everywhere. Because I was going to tell you, Mesoamerican has nothing to do with just a people who are locked to a land. You see, the land, like I said, because we basically stretched out and expanded out from Mesoamerica, which included North America, South America, Central America, Mexico, Guatemala, all them places and whatnot. We spanned and branched out from there because we had civilizations and societies all over the place. We branched out from there and we went every place. But we didn't stop being Mesoamerican. We didn't stop our heritage. The Mesoamericans are totally different people from your so-called Africans, your tribal Africans. You see, you know a tribal African when you see one, and you know a Mesoamerican when you see some. Like I said, you have people like Tariq Nasheed and them promoting foundational black Americans, which is just one step away from saying Mesoamerican. But I guess for some reason they scared to acknowledge Mesoamerican heritage, and that name is ours. We got to stop letting these people claim our heritage and give us a false heritage in return. Because I'm sick and tired of hearing people talking about, see, y'all don't want your own African heritage and whatnot because y'all was nothing but a bunch of people that was starting fires with your feet and dancing and climbing up trees. You know, basically that BS that the white man tells. And then we was all running around naked and depraved and eating each other, all this foolishness and these lies the so-called white man tells. He manufactures a whole lie concerning our people and our heritage and history, and that has to stop. Well, I'll say it like this, it don't have to stop because he's going to keep doing what he's doing as long as he got breath in his body. He's going to stay lying, but what has to stop is we have to stop accepting and believing what he says. We got to stop accepting his word for the truth and know and see it for what it is, a big lie, because he has a lot to lose if the truth really comes out. If the truth comes out that our people are really the real ancient Americans, see, because he already handed over our culture to other people. Between them, so-called white man, and the so-called Mexicans and who are the Asians, really, they already divided up our culture. The white man wants to take over Egypt, say he was the Egyptians. He let the Mexicans that's currently there, who are really Asians and East Indians, claim that they are the Mesoamerican people. Meanwhile, we got to be the Africans. We got to be the doo-doo-eating Africans, the booty-scratching Africans. We got to be the tribal Africans, walking around a bunch of ugly-ass kente-cloths. You see, that's what we got to be. And I'll say this, our people are all over Africa and things like that, but we're not African. That's the same way as an Italian going to live in Germany. He's going to still be an Italian whether he's in Germany or not. Just like our people going living over there who are Mesoamericans, born and bred of Mesoamerican bloodline and heritage, no matter where you go in the world, you're still going to be Mesoamerican. You can go to damn Germany, Italy. You can go to the darkest parts of Africa. You're not going to become what those people are because you're not from that genetic material. Again, the people born here in Mesoamerica of the ancient Mesoamerican stock, like I said, we are bloodline link and we're locked into that. You see, and it don't matter where we go, we're just going to be Mesoamericans going into other areas like our people did. Our people traveled out of America and into other societies and set up civilizations and went from place to place. Our people did that. You see, our people did that. We traveled away from where there were huge civilizations at, and we set up other civilizations elsewhere. We did that. So we need to accept that and accept that, you know, our civilization and heritage is so great, that our civilization and heritage is so great that you got people who are willing to sit up here and lie about our heritage. They're willing to sit up here and lie about our heritage just to take our heritage. Because, again, when you got people who walking around knowing they come from something Like, I'm going to give you a good example. Look at these so-called Native American Indians, so-called American Indians, who walk around here proud with their chest stuck out talking about they the Native Americans of this land. That's a goddamn lie. That is a lie. They came from someplace else. They walk around with their chest stuck out acting like they were the original people here in America. No, they were not. These so-called American Indians are not the natives to this land. They are from Asia. They are Asians. They are Asians mixed with East Indians. That's what they are. They're nothing but Asians mixed with East Indian people. See, the Asian and East Indian mix is what gives you your Mexicans. It also gives you your Mexicans, or your so-called modern-day Mexicans, are also around here claiming that they are Mesoamerican. Your East Indian and Asian mix equals so-called Mexicans of today, so-called Guatemalans and the rest of those people, so-called Native Americans. All of those people are nothing but Asiatic people. They're nothing but East Indians and Chinese mixed. That's what they are. That's why they got the slanted eyes and the same hollow dark hair like the Asians, because that's all the same genetic. That's all. They're nothing but East Indians and Chinese, or whatever, Chinese and East Indians mixing. You see, they are not the natives of this land. Don't let them lie to you and tell you that. I don't care how many headdresses they put on, how many power, because again, what you ask them is, oh, okay, y'all didn't migrate over here. Y'all say y'all didn't come here. If they lie and say that their heritage don't go back to crossing the Bering Straits from Asia, if they lie and say that, I'm going to ask them, okay, well, where was all of these tribal things at? Because why don't they ever show, before the Asians crossed the Bering Strait, why don't they ever show where they had these teepees up and these feathers in their hair and all these tribal markers? Why they don't start doing that until they come into America and meet our people? That's when they started adopting our culture and mixing their seed in with our people. And this is where your so-called American Indian nonsense comes from. And it wasn't all of them that was mixed, because there was a lot of our people who was just bronze, straight up bronze with woolly hair and things like that, and we didn't mix with them. And then you had those who mixed their seed with these so-called Asian invaders who crossed the Bering Straits. And this is why you'll see these so-called Indians with dark bronze skin, and they'll have straight hair. They'll have dark bronze skin and straight hair. That's the Asian in them. That's the Asian and East Indian in them. That is not our genetic. That is not our people. They are not the Native Americans. But the so-called white man will keep handing off their heritage. He will keep handing off our heritage to these people. He will keep handing off our heritage to these people. You see, he's going to keep handing off our heritage and allowing other people to take credit for the things we've done in this society. Because that's just who the beast is. That's who the beast is. They will continue to take credit for what we've accomplished here in this society, because we accomplished a lot of great things in this society. You see, we have accomplished a lot of great things in this society. And like I said, they've hidden our images, and they had to replace them with false African ones. You see, don't think for 1 minute that these people weren't funded. People like Kwame Kunjuru, whatever they got, Kunjufu, whatever these guys' name is, these funny-ass so-called African names and whatnot. These guys that created Kwanzaa and the whole Pan-African movement and trying to get us to embrace Africanism. Let me tell you something. All that African dance and nonsense, let me tell you something. All that stuff was paid for by the so-called white man. All of it was paid for by them. Why? Because they wanted to produce a fake narrative about our people. They basically wanted our people to accept and embrace Africanism. This is what they wanted our people to do, accept and embrace Africanism. Basically accept and embrace the idea that you came over here on cargo slave ships, right? That you came over here on cargo slave ships, crapping and pissing all over each other, right? And basically a white man having his way with your women and, things like that. Just basically casting you men as weak, casting you in as weak men. When the reality is that they kidnapped our people, the ones who were here walking freely. They would kidnap you. They would kidnap you. A gang of white males would go out, and they would sometimes use a black male to help them, and they would just grab young boys off the street, young girls off the street, which thus the term kidnapping. They would grab young children, like teenagers and stuff, off the street, slave catchers, because remember I told you slave catchers were not just those who caught the slaves running off the plantation. A slave catcher was supposed to go out here and get slaves, catch slaves, and bring them back. and he would get a percentage or own a piece of whatever the white man would pay them to go out and catch slaves. In other words, catch free black people, free Native American black people, so-called black people, free Native American bronze people, free Native American bronze people walking free with the so-called white men. The government hated those people anyway, even though he used our people to fight in wars with them and stuff for this country, but they hated the presence of our people because they were trying to establish their kingdom here on our soil. So, of course, they didn't want us down with them unless they was going to use them against their own people. See, they didn't want our people around because they felt like, we're going to just, we could just use them against their people. You see, they'll get a bunch of black people, they'll kidnap them, beat the hell out them, rape the women, basically breaking them down, catching them, beating them, raping them, doing whatever you got to do, and basically making them slave-minded. You see, making them slave-minded. And, of course, you can't tell them that, you come from the people that was here before me. This was your land. You let somebody come to your land and enslave you. Because that's what the white man did. He came to our land, which is America, and enslaved us in our land. He didn't bring us here as slaves. He came here and enslaved us. Like I said, they got together in groups, got guns, things like that, and they had a structure, the army, things like that, a little military and whatnot. And they created laws. To basically bolster slavery or tell white men you could come here and own some black people, you could own black women, you could own so-called these new black people. We already conquered their land, we done conquered their people, so now we just gonna go ahead and take them as slaves. And you had some of our people who escaped, you had some of our people who never got caught. You had a lot, but the idea they give you here in the society that every so-called black person was a slave. That's the lie that they give you. It's the idea that they give you. Every so-called black person was a slave here. You see, they notice how they tie us all to slavery, not knowing that the mass majority, it was more free black people here than enslaved ones, more free ones here than enslaved ones. And so ask yourself the question, how is it that if you brought all black people here from here out of Africa and put them in slavery, how are there any free black people walking around? How were there any free black people moving around and walking around while before in Columbus said he saw so-called black people here when they came here? Where did these people come from if they didn't get here until the white man brought them here? Where did these people come from? Why the white man don't include the history of those people in American history, the ones who was here before the white man came here, the ones who Christopher Columbus said he saw, black people he said, men and women he saw, and whatnot, so-called black men and black women he saw. And he made reference to them as a copper-colored type of people with the woolly hair or woolly. Basically, he was describing a bronze person. Hair like the Ethiopians, woolly and curl. Woolly hair. They was describing our people, man. He was describing somebody with a damn afro or something. You see, that's a history they don't want our people to have because, see, when you give our people a real heritage and a real culture and a backstory, a back account of where we came from, that's enough to propel our people right into the future. That's why I created and put together the Mesoamerican community. You see, because that was meant to give us wings. That was meant to give us that push that we needed from the past in order to move us into the present. And that's what's happening with the Mesoamerican community. That's what's happening with that. It's a push. It's a literal push to restore power to our people, to restore order to our people. It's a literal push. And you got certain people that are going to be in the way of that push. You're going to have certain people that are going to be in the way of that push. They're going to be in the way of it, and they're going to want to see the pushing stop. They're going to want to see, you so-called black people, yeah, blah, 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 we the real, whatever. Whatever. You're the real nothing. You see. We are the real Mesoamericans. We are the real Mesoamericans, not African Americans, Mesoamericans. We are the real Mesoamericans. And they're going to keep trying to pass off this fake African culture to our people to keep us off track of knowing we are the true Mesoamericans. They're going to keep pushing off this black thing to our people to keep them in alignment with being so-called African American and black. Now you got some so-called black females, they'll stick up for the whole black thing and whatnot. See, because I told you before, black people love being flunkies under the so-called white man. They love being flunkies for him. They love being flunkies, Sambos, coons, Aunt Jemimas, buck dancers. They love doing all that. So this is why they're not going to argue with the whole African-American term and phase. And when they're not going to argue with that, they're going to always reject the Mesoamerican heritage because, like I said, they are a race unto their own selves now. Your so-called black race is a race unto itself. You see, they're not with us. Nor should we treat them like they with us. We shouldn't be on no brother and sister nonsense with nobody who's not with us. We shouldn't be like that. We got no brothers and sisters in the world because you see the so-called brothers and sisters will turn on you. You'll see they'll turn on you because that's the black in them. That's the black in them. You see, the beast has programmed these Negroes well. He's programmed the world well, especially when it comes to our heritage and these people who try and steal our heritage. That's what it's about. It's about people who are trying to steal our heritage. You know, it's just so much history that they don't even want to touch. That's how you know that that's our people and they were trying to hide that. They don't even want to show you any of these pictures. You're going to tell me that all these pictures have always been present all this time of all these so-called black people in the ancient world, here in ancient America, and they all looking like our people who are being called African American today. And you're going to tell me that nobody said anything and yet these niggas still wanted to push this whole African thing after you can clearly see? Do you not know that would have been like a drink of fresh water for our people to know that you were the true Native Americans of this land, that this is truly your land, that everybody here is an immigrant but you? Do you know how powerful that would have been for our people? We would have definitely had more cohesion as a race, as that Mesoamerican people. We would have definitely had more cohesion if we would have been able to call ourselves Mesoamerican instead of African American. If we knew ourselves as bronze skin or copper skinned people and with a real heritage and real culture that we come from, instead of some black African culture from some unheard of places in Africa where we supposedly come from. You see, this is what happens when you let liars tell your story. This is what happens when you let liars teach about your history and heritage, especially a bunch of liars who hate your guts, a bunch of liars who hate the fact that you live because they just here to exist and feed off of your energy. They hate that. They get over here to this country, wherever they come from, these Caucasians, these Asians, these East Indians, these people get over here into this country and they start to cop this attitude about how you supposed to be in your land. They act like this always been their home and whatnot, and you the damn intruder and the invader. Like I told you with gentrification, the white man moving, these Caucasians moving to your neighborhood, and a bunch of them come, they start off as friends, and they're telling you how great you are, and instead of third, and yeah, how you doing, neighbor? Then as soon as they all get, a lot of them get in there, next thing you know, they looking at you like what you doing in their neighborhood. That's what like I told you, gentrification, colonization, it's all the same thing. Just different lands, masters of scale. That's what they did here in America. They got over here, they came over here begging for help, dying, starving, dirty, filthy, nasty. No, they didn't know how to feed themselves, nothing. And like I said, our people farming the land, took compassion on them as people of that Mesoamerican heritage, people who were always here, people who were descendants of the Mayans, the Aztec, the Inca. Like I said, we were descendants of all those people. And by the time the so-called white man came here, we already had all of our, still had our culture and our heritage and our customs and things like that from our ancient Mesoamerican ancestors and whatnot. We still had a lot of the things that are currently being called Native American, which is really Mesoamerican, and it has nothing to do with those so-called Asian-looking, East Indian-looking people. It has nothing to do with them, you see. But like I said, you so-called black people, you're so blind, you don't know what your true history is. You think you actually came from Africa on slave ships. So like when I did the last broadcast and I said, well, then why don't y'all go back to Africa, give back your white man names, and stop trying to emulate Caucasian. Go back if you really believe you come from Africa. leave America, go into Africa in droves, change your names back to African names. If you believe in that ancestry DNA BS about you coming from someplace in Africa, then why don't you go over there, move over there with and link back up with your family. You see, because a lot of that stuff when they showed you these reenactments, because you know how you know it was fake and phony. Notice they didn't really take no regular so-called black people. They took a bunch of actors, celebrities, and entertainers, especially so-called black ones. Y'all see the thing where they showed you Oprah Winfrey, Spook Lee, and the rest of these coons. They come up there, and here comes this clown, Skip Gates, this clown. Goes on, yeah, see, get your African DNA, your ancestry and whatnot. Here go your ancestry right here. Your people are from Cameroon in Africa, or your people is from over here in this part, and they sit there, and they all surprised and whatnot, because no matter what it was, they wasn't going to say Native American. They were specifically told not to tell you niggas that you come from America. You're not native to America, because that's the spot for the so-called Asians. They want the Asians to be Native Americans. The white man wants the Asians and the East Indians to be the Native Americans, because he knows who they are. He knows their heritage. He knows that they're really not Native Americans. He knows that, but he would rather promote them as Native Americans than promote our people as Native Americans. You see what I'm saying? They don't want you to know their history. They don't want you to know about the Olmecs, the Aztec, the Inca, the Mayan, the Toltec. But it always comes out. It always comes out. Now, y'all got a decision to make. Do you still want to embrace this fake red, black, and green Pan-African BS, or do you want to embrace the true culture and heritage of our people? And our colors that we use, matter of fact, was red, white, and blue, and yellow, or gold, as you say. That was the colors we used. We used red, white, and blue, and gold. You look at a lot of our colors and costumes and things like that, the things we wore back in the ancient world, they were rich with color, man, blues and reds and yellows and whites and had things like that. So that was what we really, put on and played out and whatnot. And the so-called white man, when he came over here, he copied the whole red, white, and blue thing and the thing for the flag from us, from our people, and, embracing the red, white, and blue. That was our people that did that. So once the white man misplaced our people here in America, because he was going to refuse to tell our people that they was Mesoamerican, because like I said, the so-called white man knows that, when you come into the land of a people and you're not native to that land, and you eventually take over those people's land, you already know that those people, you're going to always see those people as a threat. And that's why they look at so-called black people today as a threat. That's why they want to exterminate so-called black people, especially you so-called black men. They want to exterminate you, starting with your masculinity, right? They want to get rid of your masculinity by saying this toxic, that, this, that, the third, putting you guys in dresses. They want to get rid of that because that's part of buck breaking. That's part of, basically pulling the masculine energy out of the men who are the true Mesoamericans, the true ancient Native Americans of this land. You see, this is how the white man starts to break our hold on this land and our masculine energy on this land mass, because our masculine energy is all in this land mass. The masculine energy of our people is all in this land mass, and the white man hates it because he wants to be the real American. He wants to say that you niggas came from Africa and he's the real American, even though his nasty white ass come from Europe. They come from Europe somewhere in the caves of the Caucasus Mountain. Or they come from someplace sprawled all over, whether it be England, whether it be Ireland, whether it be Spain, whether it be wherever, Russia, wherever, that's where they come from. Scotland, that's their heritage. They are not Americans. But the white man has no problem with throwing away where he came from and embracing where he at now, which is America. Because we made this people a gold mine. We made this place a gold mine. We the one that farmed this land. We the one that harvested this land, made it worth living on. Our people did. From culture to agriculture, things like that. We made it worth living here in America. Prior to that, like I said, nobody was checking for the white man or nothing they was doing over in their country. They couldn't make nothing happen over there, so they came over here and made things happen. And it cost our people their lives. It cost them their livelihood, because these people came in as a force with guns, as a group, as a collective, with military stuff, with guns, as a unit, basically ready to attack and kill anybody who stood in their way of taking hold of our land, taking hold of our ancient society. or what's a part of our ancient society. That's why they did that. Now your so-called Asians, so-called Asian Native Americans, some of them went a little bit further into America than we did as far as North America go, but South America and all that, and a lot of them, Northern America, we was all over that. And like I said, even if they went in, the Asian-looking ones, they still had our influence because they come out of us as far as the so-called culture and things like that, and the mixing they see, all that comes out of us. So all they did was basically ride along. All they did was ride along. You see, that's all these people did. They rode along off of our culture, off of our heritage. Like I said, everything from the feathers and whatnot to the bows and arrows to the moccasins, that's all Mesoamerican stuff. That's all Mesoamerican. That's all the Mayan culture within Mesoamerican civilization. All of what you see the so-called Indians wearing, from the feathers, the bows, the totem poles with our face on, that's all Mesoamerican culture. That has nothing to do with no Native American, or no American Indians, because they are, I agree with that, they are American Indians. You see, they are American Indians, not Native Americans. You see, the Native Americans are the Mesoamerican people. The American Indians are the first immigrants here who crossed the Bering Strait and mixed in with our people and assumed our identity as well. They assumed our identity as well. And this is why we are in the condition we're in. This is why we don't know who we are as a people. This is why people can come along with some fake Pan-African history and heritage, just drum up some Agent Coon. Agent Coon will come and, yeah, see, we African brothers and sisters. We African. Oh, don't worry about that Mesoamerican stuff. That ain't important. That ain't nothing. Oh, what we supposed to ignore that? Man, don't listen to that stuff, man. These guys out here be swearing they from someplace else other than Africa. That's what they want to push into your mind. Don't listen to nobody who's telling you that you other than black or African. Yeah, you need to listen to that person, because if it's me, like I said, and I tell you, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna say it one time, you do it, and do your black self after that. Go and be black. Go and embrace your blackness, as you should. We don't need the blackness. We don't need it. And I'm going to tell you that, for the most part, our people have always, had some sort of connection where we knew something. But like I said, we couldn't really embrace it the way we wanted to because of these situations. Where was jazz invented? Where were all these ball games and things? Like I said, all these things come out of Mesoamerica. Everything that you see here now, from the ball games to the music, the things that make a heritage and culture, that didn't come out of Africa. That comes from here in Mesoamerica. The soul music, the R&B, the jazz, the beating of the drums and the bongo, or the bongos, drums, or whatever the case is, the sound of the instrument, all of this is Mesoamerican stuff. Like ball games, handball, basketball, all this stuff, ball games, all throwing balls through hoops, that's all us, man. You see, the dancing and things like that, the singing, that's all us. We have a culture unto ourselves that's not African. And we need to stop trying to claim that, because you can't find any of the things that we developed here as so-called black people here in the society, the soul, the music, things like that. We influenced everybody else. Nobody's checking for no African music. Wasn't nobody checking for no African music. You got guys like Fela Kuti and all them other guys. They was copying off of Mesoamerican music. Nobody checking for no African music. Nobody checking for no Caucasian music. And nobody checking for all the music. Like I said, Mesoamerican music influenced all music. Mesoamerican music is rock music, blues music, soul music, jazz music. That's all Mesoamerican music. You see, nobody was checking for any of that other stuff. Country music is Mesoamerican music, to be honest with you. All that's Mesoamerican. Or the white man, these people got no kind of music. They got no rhythm, nothing. Not even you tribal Africans. Y'all ain't got no real rhythm. That's why y'all got to copy Mesoamerican people. So how the hell you want to tell us with all the things we developed that style and that swagger as Mesoamerican men, how you want to attribute that to being African? The Africans ain't got no swag. They ain't got no style, man. A lot of them guys, like I said, they really, a lot of these guys are nothing but a bunch of tribal, dark-skinned coons and black Caucasians, a lot of these so-called Africans. I'm talking about the tribal ones. You see? You look at them, they got like this real, like stale, just, nothing energy on them. You see, all they try to do, the so-called Africans, they so-called culture is, like I said, whatever, it's nothing, nobody's checking for their culture. So how does our culture come out of Africa? How does our culture, so-called our music, our diets, our music, our dance, and our sports and things like this, things that make cultures interesting and make them pop, how does that come? That's Mesoamerican, man. That's Mesoamerican. I bet you if you look up Mesoamerican instruments, I bet you'll find drums, you'll find some form of, look like a damn bass, everything. You'll find all kinds of stuff. You look up wood instruments, you'll probably find, somebody needs to look up Mesoamerican instruments and ancient Mesoamerican music. I bet you it sounds a lot like the soul music you hear today in the R&B, like earlier versions of it. You see, that didn't come out of Africa. You see, and the white man didn't teach us nothing. He didn't teach you nothing. So how we know to play instruments, how we know to how to farm land, do all this stuff, how we know to do carpentry and woodwork, that's all Mesoamerican heritage, man. See, because we come from society builders. We come from people who built civilizations. We didn't start losing our heritage, our civilization, and our drive to succeed and build on until we came up amongst the so-called white man, and we started going up under him, and next thing you know, he enslaving our people, and that took all of the freedom, all of the free-mindedness, the intelligence, and all that, took it right out of our people. You see, it took it right all out of our people. But that's what happens when you try to live in the world as individuals, and you don't have a collective group of people, a collective community that can protect you as a people, protect you from any outside interlopers that come in and try to take over your community, try to take your children, harm your children. And it's what I always got on you so-called black men about in the ancient world and today in the modern world, because there's no way that, like I said, your children are supposed to be getting harmed, that they got to be going through what they're going through up under the so-called white man if you guys stood up like men. See, they didn't do that in the past. Like, was a time where they stood up as men and protected the children, but then over time when they started letting all these humans come into the mix and come into the world, come into into America, next thing you know, they just start getting this individual mindset. I guess they start feeling like, hi neighbors, how you doing? These are my new neighbors and whatnot. Yeah, right. Then your new neighbors turned around, got some guns, and started enslaving you, raping your daughters, raping your wives, raping your women, and raping your children, everything else. You see, this is what your Mesoamerican hospitality got you. You see, and so it's a slap in the face when they try to tell us that we really African, and that being African or Pan-African is our culture. Again, if African is a culture, how come it took these niggas here in America to cobble together some Pan-African culture to give to our people? Why your Africans didn't come over here and reach out to our people with the real so-called African culture and say, hey, y'all, here my people, here's our real culture, we got to be family. They don't do that. They don't do that. Why do they have to take some niggas out here from America, turn around, take some of this manufactured Pan-African culture. Here go your red, black, and green flag, because, see, what that means is a lot of these Negroes who are really Mesoamerican, because they wanted to kiss the white man's ass, they face shoved firm up the white man's ass. When these Caucasians, these Europeans came over here, they was telling them these niggas were willing to be the black version of these Caucasians. They were willing to play their part as black people, meaning the darker versions of these white people. They were willing to play their part. So if the white man told me, here go your flag right here. Yeah, don't teach your people that they the real Americans. Don't teach your people that they the real native. See, because when the white man first came here, they was, it was out there. Our people was the Mesoamerican, the Native Americans here. That was already out. But see, as time went on, and right around the time toward the middle or toward the end of slavery, that's when they start with this Negro, sometime around that time, the Negro, black, and all this other nonsense. And they started with this whole African narrative, and then they started to just keep it going, and they would basically transitioning over our people to call ourselves African and black and things like that. So they basically got a lot. I told you, they basically put money behind anybody in the 70s, in the late 60s and the 70s that was promoting to say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud, Africa, Mama Africa, Sin, all that. A lot of these black females that was pushing that, Mariam Makeba and all them other people talking that black African shit. A lot of them people, man, these guys are agents, man. These guys are agents. A lot of these black females doing them all that African, Maya Angelou talking all that African shit, and then but you married to a Jew or a so-called white man, but you talking all that African shit. Like I said, a lot of these people pushing that with a damn African robe on, with a perm in her head. You see, this is your African sisters, Alice Walker and all these other people pushing all that whole black nonsense image on front of our people, man. These people are agents, man. They get paid. They was getting paychecks to mislead our people. How the hell do these people make a living? How do they make a living? Somebody had to give them a job at a school, tenure at a school, lecturing and getting money to teach you that you Africans and you African Americans and all that. And like I said, they even got Malcolm X to sell out. Remember I told you remember that picture I put up of him in his last days? He got the damn dashiki on. Now all of a sudden he an African too, and he got the beard and all this other stuff. That's nothing but some Marxist made up propaganda / culture vulture theft of our heritage. That's all that was. You see, they didn't want our people to know that we the Mesoamericans, that we're the first society builders here, the first civilization builders here, the first real government set up here. They didn't want our people to know that. You see, because the white man was trying to buy himself time. See, because if our people knew that early on and we started focusing on teaching our children that and coming into alignment with that, we could have probably built a real community from just that knowledge. Because, see, in that time in the 70s was ripe with that kind of energy to build that type of community because you didn't have all the distractions you got today. So a lot of times our people were willing to learn who they were, come together on something and do something together. So if you told our people back then, that, hey, man, we really Mesoamericans, we're not African Americans, and we need to embrace our Mesoamerican heritage, we should do this, that, and the third, they'd be like, hell yeah, let's do that. They'd be like, hell yeah, let's do that. You see? Because look at all the so-called black groups that was around in the 60s and the 70s, because that was our people trying to find their culture and heritage. They wanted to be a part of something, man. They was waking up. They wanted to be a part of something. They didn't know what, but they knew they wanted to be a part of something. So a lot of them just went with the whole Pan-African thing by default because it really wasn't nothing else to compare it to. It'd be like, well, they say we so-called Africans are Pan-African and whatever, we're supposed to be studying Pan-Africanism, whatever that is. Well, that's really a form of Satanism. Black magic, Pan. You see, that's all that is. Satanism, black magic, Pan, all this other stuff. That's why they use the term Pan-African. You see, Pan pipes, Peter Pan, all that Pan stuff. Tin Pan Alley. You see, Pan. When you pan from something, that means you turn away from something. When somebody said, remember I said in motion picture, they say pan the camera to this way, pan to that way, meaning turn the camera or turn the focus onto something else. So when they told our people that we were Pan-African, they were basically trying to get us to pan our attention or pan our focus onto this African cultural BS. You see, pan away from the fact that you are here in America and that you are really Mesoamericans, the first real and only Americans here, and that everybody else came here as immigrants. Pan away from that and pan toward Africanism, a.k.a. Pan-Africanism. Pan over, move toward Africanism. Look up that terminology of pan. When somebody say pan over, pan the camera over this way, pan over that way. You see? So keep that in mind. This was all nothing but a form of a hoax and a proper form of propaganda to get our people to embrace this fake Pan-Africanism and hide our real Mesoamerican heritage. That's all it was, because we have a rich, deep, long Mesoamerican heritage. I'm talking about thousands of years. You see, we have a deep, rich heritage here in these lands of America. You see, and we still have a heavy presence here in North America and in South America. You still hear our presence felt here in this, and like I said, the so-called white man hates that. They hate that. They hate that our presence is strong here in the Americas and that we are the real ancient Americans. We are the real ancient Americans, the ancient Native Americans. We are. But like I said, you got a lot of people who do not understand that. You got a lot of people who do not understand that. You got a lot of people who do not have a clue of what that is and what that looks like. You see, that's what that is. Again, had we had that mind and know who we were, that would have been a free mind. You see, that would have been a free mind. You see, had we had that mind to know who we and what we really were, that would have been a free mind for us to maneuver our way going forward. That would have been a free mind. You see, so we have to know the free minds and who are the free mind, who's not of the free mind, who are the slaves and who are the slaves and who are the free people. The free people are going to be the ones who are going to accept that we are really Mesoamericans and that our heritage is Mesoamerican and that we should be a Mesoamerican community, not no African American community, not no black community, because those are not real communities. That's a bunch of farce and fake nonsense. Again, this is why we should be embracing our Mesoamerican heritage and coming together as a Mesoamerican community with our own Mesoamerican language, our own Mesoamerican names, our own Mesoamerican, everything here in this society. That's why I tell you all, those of you who are listening who consider yourself to be bronze, not black, to join the International Mesoamerican Community. Go to our site, the International Mesoamerican Community. It's going to be in the link below when this video comes out, because this video is going directly toward Mesoamerican radio. So go and check that out. You see, go and check that link. The free people are going to be the Mesoamerican people, the people who know that this society, this country is our country. And the slaves are going to be you black people, you Negroes, you African Americans who believe that you came over here on slave ships, that, that you come from some tribal jungle bunny African, tribal Africans and some nonsense like that, and that your skin is really black. That type of brain staining is for a certain group of Negroes. And that's from Negroes we don't need.